So welcome everyone to the podcast. This is our first episode. It's a little bit challenging. We're a little bit nervous, but let's see how it goes. In a minute, we're gonna be introducing ourselves, and you're gonna be able to know who we are. But the main idea is to talk a little bit about pets, about how they interact with us. What do you think, Victor?
Yeah, hello everybody. Thank you for joining our podcast. The idea is to talk about pets, talk about pet care, maybe do some Q&A with some people, have some people submit questions, talk about like things like nutrition, maybe. Yeah, that's basically the idea.
Okay, yeah. So basically, the idea is to have a show and we can come and interact and talk about pets. The idea with that with this project that we're starting during the whole time of the project, people will be able to interact. So you that are listening this, how we are going to be able to interact with us by probably submitting some QAs. Maybe for now it doesn't gonna be live, but you can just submit a question for the next episode and later today we're gonna start discussing more about that. But just like to break a little bit the ice, I want to start by introducing ourselves. Now you hear a little bit about the idea of the podcast, but let's start to knowing who are going to be your hosts. So I'm gonna try to go and start by myself. So my name is Juan Manuel. I am from Colombia, so my first language is Spanish. You might be hearing me that my English is not good. I want to apologize. Maybe this is the first time you're gonna hear me apologize, but I guess I'm gonna do that every episode. As far as my background and my who I am a pharmaceutical chemist. So it's not super close to pets. It's not super close to the veterinary industry, but I guess that's actually a little bit good because I'm gonna be able to ask a lot of questions because I am here because I love animals and I want to learn about animals, and I expect that every one of you that are listening this podcast also are in the same position. You maybe own a pet, you're thinking in own a pet, you're thinking in adopt one pet, and you want to know how to help them. So that's we are in the same page. Also, with my background, I'm gonna be able to tell and talk a little bit more about the pharmaceutical industry and how some medicines can interact with your dogs, or how the veterinary pharmaceutical industry is going to start focusing and how it works around the vet industry. And all my life I've been having dogs. So I grew up, I cannot remember a part of my life when I don't have any pet or any dog. So I am a passionate animal lover, but I have experience having dogs, but not that in deep vet knowledge than you will see that Victor have in a. So today I have a dog. I have a husky. His name is Nicholas. He's a challenging dog for me, and actually that's he was the animal that motivates me to get into this project because he's a rescue husky and he has some issues like behavioral issues. Like he was a super scared dog. You will think that you see that dog and you can see like, oh my God, this dog suffered a lot. He was like in panic in every moment. I've been able to help him during all his life. Now he's with me almost 1 year, and you can see how he changed. Now he's a dog that is able to explore the world, but he was not like that at the beginning. And we're gonna talk a little bit more about that later in the podcast, probably today, probably following episode, maybe all the time, because I love that animal and I just want to talk about him. I also have another three dogs. They don't live with me, they live with my mother. One is Palito, that is a lab, and I have two little Morkies. One of them is Lolita, and the other one is Lupita. And you can see, you will see, I have another two dogs in Colombia. So there is a lot of animals in my life. So I love them. And yeah, now I'm gonna let Victor to introduce himself, and let's see how it goes.
Hi, I'm Victor. So I'm a veterinary student and I'll be graduating hopefully in May. So I'm very excited, almost there. I, growing up, watched a lot of Animal Planets. I always loved animals. I would watch TV shows like The Crocodile Hunter, Jeff Corn Experience, the show called The Most Extreme. It's like a show that ranks animals on certain features, like the fastest animal, things like that. I worked as a veterinary assistant with dogs and cats in general practice for a few years before vet school. And my focus right now is to um, trying to find a job and then hopefully work with dogs and cats in general practice. But yeah, this podcast I think is going to be helpful for me to help to learn as well, to figure out how to answer questions and help basically with the research, learning different topics that hopefully we cover some topics that can help a lot of people. Yeah, that's basically it.
That's good. That's good. And can I ask you, like, how do you get like, because this is really cool that you're studying vet today, but how you get there? It was like since you were a kid, you think in being vet, or it was more something that grew up when you were an adult? How was that?
I yeah, when as a kid I wanted to be a zoologist, and then when I was in high school, there was a lot of I took a lot of classes about marine science, marine biology, and things like that. So I loved science, and so I wanted to be a marine biologist when I went to college. And then my sister said, "Why have you ever considered veterinary medicine to be a vet?" And I said, "No, I never really thought about that." So I started volunteering at the Humane Society with wildlife, and that's basically how I fell in love with it and changed my major. I changed it from marine biology to just biology so that I can get my undergraduate degree before applying to vet school. So then after I graduated with my biology degree, I started working as a veterinary assistant, got more experience, and now I'm in vet school. Yeah. So it wasn't like there's a lot of people that you meet that say, "Oh, I knew from when I was 5 years old I really want to be a vet." So I wasn't that type of person, but I think it's good to have like more experience outside of that world, It
Mhm.
gets you a different perspective, I think. But yeah, it's been it's been a good experience in vet school. I really loved it.
So talking like coming back about that, you say that then you volunteer as the first thing you did, and how was that? What do you have to do?
It was very easy to sign up. You go there, they do some training with you, talk about how you're going to help with like with feeding the animals, cleaning and things like that. Um, it's a very great organization, Humane Society. So they're very organized. They have different departments there, and so you sign up where you want to um, participate in, or where they need people, doing laundry and things like that. But gives you exposure, and then over time, as you gain more experience, and you can start volunteering more with and they have requirements that you need. And you can volunteer in the veterinary side over there with the wild animals, and it's like a wildlife rehabilitation center. So they have injured or orphaned animals there. So you're basically, yeah, just helping them get better before they can go back into the wild and be released.
Okay, that's good. And then after you finish that, like to volunteer with them, and then you change your major, then what was the first like pet related work you had, job you
Yeah.
had?
Yes. And after that, I worked as a veterinary assistant at a small, well, so just dogs and cats, a general practice. That my experience at the wildlife center helped me get that job, and helping with physical exams, holding the animals and hearing the doctor talk, and helping get medications, give vaccines, wellness, and help with sick animals, getting blood samples, getting urine samples, things like that. So it was a good
Okay,
experience. Yeah.
that sounds like it. And after that, that was you have to move after that to study veterinary medicine, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I moved, we're here in North Carolina. I moved here about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, almost 4 years ago. And it's been good. I like it here. I used to live in Florida before, so it's a big
Okay.
change.
Yeah, that's good. That for all of you that you don't know, we're located today in Raleigh, and actually that's something we're gonna talk a little bit later during today because there are some ideas that we have when we grow our audience to make like presential events and things like that, and you're gonna be here in North Carolina. But we're gonna talk more a little bit more about that soon. I don't know if there is something else you want to know about, you want to talk about your background, Victor, or do you wanna know something about my background before we move? with the things in the podcast.
Yeah. How'd you get into pharmaceutical chemistry or as a pharmaceutical chemist?
Well, that was odd. I can say when I was in high school, I was willing to be an architect or a designer or something like that. But I was doing really good with chemistry. So by the moment I finished the high school, I just applied in Colombia. There, like at least in Medellin, that is where I'm from. It was like two like public universities, and they are like almost free. So I was like the kind of college that I can to apply. The only thing I have, so I applied to two of them. One was really good at architecture. The other one doesn't have that option at all. So I say, okay, what can I apply to get there? Like used to, if I go to that school, what I can do. And then I see that they have chemistry, and as they say, I was good at that at high school. I say, okay, let's apply for pharmaceutical chemistry, just because I didn't see the other chemistries like with a lot of future. Maybe I was wrong, but that was my first thinking. So I applied to both, and then you have to do like two different tests in order to get admitted. So I went, I present the test, and it was miserable for me in the architecture one. It was like only 100 open position. I was like the number 500. I mean, it's one of the best college in Colombia for architecture, so a lot of people apply for that. So only the best ones pass. And I guess I was not that good for the architecture questions. And then when I applied for the chemistry one, it was kind of the same. They call it the University of Antioch is really good for pharmaceutical chemistry. It was like 63 opens, and I was the number 12 out of 1,000. So I just passed through like super, super easy. And I was like, okay, this might to be a sign. I gonna try to do that. If the life is leading me for this path, I gonna follow it. So I get in and I start studying. I have to say the truth. The first two semesters for me were terrible. I didn't like anything at all. But then for the third semester, I start learning about both molecular biology, biochemistry, and anatomy, and we get more in depth. It was like a human anatomy, nothing related with that. But then at that point, I just start loving that, and I get in love with the pharmaceutical chemistry, and then I start participating in investigation projects, and I just build my life around that. I also have like all my life like this passion for entrepreneurship and businesses. And I guess that's actually something that is motivating me to do this, because I see this like an option, an opportunity to express like that creativity side of my brain that I don't use normally working as an engineer or a pharmaceutical engineer. Because when I came here to United States, my pharmaceutical degree kind of doesn't exist. Here in the United States, you are either pharmaceutic or a chemistry or a chemist. So it's not like both. So I learned during the process that here what I study in Colombia is more like engineering in pharmaceutical. So I'm more like a pharmaceutical engineer. I get a job on that, even if it's really good and I can help a lot people with my job. I guess I have like this creativity side of my brain that needs to do some exercise, and that's why I'm doing these kind of things. Yeah. So that's how I get there. I actually tried to make like, my own business for a long time. So during my whole life, I've been like creating different ventures and different options. That so far it was more like a expensive hobby because I invest everything just in creating things. But at the end, I never like pursue anything like seriously. And now I'm getting a little bit more old and more mature, and I guess it is the time to focus on something and just build it. So that's what I'm kind of here because of that, and also because I love dogs, animals. So I'm pretty sure I'm gonna learn a lot about you. Um, yeah. So now finally, if you as listener has some questions about our background or about our history or about what we know, please you're gonna see a form in the description of this podcast. If you're seeing it in Spotify, if you're seeing it in YouTube, you're gonna see it that below in the description. So you can just fill the form to ask questions to us, and then we're gonna read it as far as we move in the podcast, in the episodes. Any question that you have today is possible, then we're gonna answer that in the in the next two episodes, depending on how are we in the recordings. So feel free to let your question in the form below. Also, if you want to be here, if you want to come and talk with us, if you want to be one of our guests, you can also fill another form. So you're going to see the two forms there in the description, where you can just let your information, what you know and what you want to come, and we can meet and talk about your knowledge in the podcast. So okay, let's move to the next topic. Since this is our first episode, I guess that the first thing we can do is just talk about why we're doing this podcast and what ideas do we have, what is our mission, goals, and actually decide a name, because you're gonna see a name when we publish this episode, but today we don't have one for this podcast, so we're gonna see a few options also for the branding. So there is a lot of things to cover in this episode. So let's move. So the first thing is, what is our goals? Why do we want to do that? This podcast, why we joined this mentor. I guess we talk a little bit about that, but it's time to talk a little bit deeper. So it was, I call this idea come crazy to me. One day I just text Victor like, "Hey, Victor, do you want to join a podcast? I want to do a podcast in animals." I was thinking like, I have a lot of questions about my dog. I guess a lot of people have questions. Actually, Victor is a good friend of mine. So I'm seeing sometimes when we get out to drink some beers or have something, there is always someone asking questions about their pets. And I say, about their pets. And I say like, hey, maybe a lot of people have the same questions that we have. And why not to do this like a public thing for everyone? And that way we can make some networking, know nice people, and at the same time start giving a lot of education about how to improve your pet's life through this with this project. So that's how I guess. I never asked Victor like, what was your first reaction when I sent you that invitation? What do you feel? What do you think? What were your first thoughts about that?
Yeah, when he first texted me, I felt nervous. I was like, how am I going to be able to answer these questions that people have? Maybe I don't know the answer to the question, but then I realized, that's an opportunity to learn more, an opportunity for me to grow, an opportunity to be more confident and hopefully help some people out. And sometimes if I don't know the answer to a question, that's okay. Sometimes nobody knows everything. Nobody's gonna be an expert in everything, and that's the reason that this is
For sure, for sure. That's totally fine. And actually, I think that if we don't know an answer in one episode, for sure we're gonna make our research and answer that question in the next
yeah.
one. So it's fine. It's fine. We don't need to know everything. As far as I guess this is more an experience to enjoy than any other thing. Not just us, but also the people that listening us. So it's okay. I mean, we're humans, and this is a project that the project that is gonna grow with us, and actually we're gonna grow our knowledge and everything. So that's fine. So the first thing was that you say you feel like I'm kind of nervous, but at the same time you were like happy about it.
Yeah, exactly. I was, happy and excited to do it. And I want to make sure that I do things right and not give any wrong information out there to people. And it's like, I've never done anything like public like this before. So this is something that's brand new for me and exciting.
So when I was thinking about how to make this podcast, I start thinking like, okay, well, what topics do we can have, and what do we can talk with others in order to fulfill that mission that we have. And then we start discussing about that, and we start thinking, okay, we can talk about health, we can talk about behavior, we can talk about training, we can talk about nutrition. Why do you think that those topics are that important? And what do you think are more relevant for us to talk about it?
Yeah, I think all those things are important in their own way. Those are things that people ask about a lot. One of the things that there's a lot of information out there in the internet that some is great information, some of it might be more myths or not based on science or something that's that needs to be investigated more. There are some things that the veterinary medicine is something that there's not as much information as compared to human medicine. So it's something that we still have to learn more about. That's the fun thing about it. It's just trying to figure out what's the best thing that we can do for our pets based on what the limited information that we have. So I think nutrition is one thing that's really important that a lot of people ask about. I think the pet nutrition, like the food industry for pets, it's like a huge industry out there. So there's so much different information out there about what's the right food, what's the wrong food. Is there something that's better than something else, But yeah.
I actually have a question about that. And I hear some people that they want to start like, I don't trust. Actually, I did that with my dog. At the beginning, it's hard to trust in that regular food that you get like in bags, the kibble.
Uh-huh.
And you think like, okay, the first thought you think is like, what if I just cook for my dog the same way I cook? Because when I compare what I have on my plate versus what I put in his plate, it is like I kind of feel sad sometimes for him because there is a lot of things that they are missing out. But I'm not sure if that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, yeah, the most important thing when feeding a dog or cat is make sure they have a balanced and complete nutrition. So basically, balance meaning, well, first of all, complete meaning that you give them at least the minimum amount of each nutrient. So we're talking about protein, carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals. Water is also considered a nutrient. So just having at least a minimum amount of each of these things, and then the balance. There are certain things that you don't want. So you want to have the right ratio of, like calcium and phosphorus is one that's really important. You don't want to have too much calcium or too little phosphorus or vice versa. So the good thing about the commercial diets, even if it's fresh food or kibble or canned food, they have these companies that they test the food to make sure that you have the right nutrients. But it's still possible to, of course, cook for your food for your dog or cat. There's a lot of people that do that. There are ways that you can do it so that you have the right balance and make sure it's complete nutrition. One website that I like to use is called balanceit.com. It's a free website for as long as your dog is healthy that gives you ideas of what to give your dog or cat. I think they do cats, but they
So
definitely do
it's
dog.
like a kind of it's like a kind of recipe place but for cooking for your animals. That's
Exactly.
really
Yeah.
good. That's really good. So we're gonna drop that link in the description too. So you're gonna find that as one of the related links that we talk about today. I just had that question just to because I wanted to know how important is that. But I'm pretty sure that if we're gonna start talking about nutrition, we can have a whole episode or even more just about that. So stay tuned because it is coming. I will have a lot of questions about nutrition, about how to cook my dog because even though, well, you're gonna see later that he has like it's medical things for food. He has food allergies, so it's even worse when I think in giving him some food, like some homemade food. But I'm gonna make a lot of questions about that. Not just for Nico, but also for the other three dogs I have. Also, one of the most important things I notice is the behavior of dogs. Because many times when you get a new dog or when you have like you're in this relationship with your animal and you're trying to make a bond with them, it's kind of hard to grow that bond stronger because you don't know how to communicate with your dog or how to understand why your dog has some behavior that it might be good or might be bad for you. So what do you think about why is this behavior thing important and what can we share with the people that is listening us? How can we help them to improve like this relation and understand more the animal behavior?
Yeah, I think behavior is a huge part of the human-animal bond, which is a growing field of research. But we know that there's a bond between us and our pets, and that behavior is a lot of it can like unwanted behaviors like peeing on the floor or crying or whining. Sometimes that could be a sign of a medical problem. That's and a lot of times trying to rule out the medical problems is really important, of course. And then once you ruled out the medical possibility of a medical problem, like for example, if they're peeing on the floor, maybe they have a urinary tract infection, And so you
Mhm.
want to rule those things out first. And once those things are rolled out, then we can start thinking about behavior problems, how to help them with those things. A lot of the problems can stem from fear or anxiety or stress in the animal's life. I feel like some things that we can help them with is creating more predictability in their life. Trying to stop unwanted behaviors can be difficult and takes a lot of time and patience, I think. But it's definitely possible, and I think with the right guidance, people can do that. Yeah, there's a lot we can go into about behavior. I don't know how much you want me to talk about it.
We can talk a lot about that, and actually that's also coming. That's also coming. We have a lot of things to talk about that, and that's really good. So I was just asking this question because I want to grow like that curiosity in the people that are listening, and be willing to come and keep staying with us. The idea is to start publishing one episode each week. So for sure there is a lot of information coming. There is a lot of nice moments coming. See what you want to talk about, what you want to learn. So please make sure that you're filling the form. Then as I said earlier, going to be in the description or in any place when you're reading, when you can give us feedback. Please use that form also to let us know what subjects or what do you want us to talk about. And I also want to go and introduce let's say, one of the segments of this podcast that is going to be in future episodes. Probably in this one, that is the first, you don't gonna see it, but in the next ones, you're gonna see it, and is the feature QA section. So as we're saying, today, there is a form that you can fill with feedback or questions. Every time that we publish a podcast, getting close to the end, we're going to take a couple minutes, probably 10, 15 minutes to answer questions from the public. So please, if you want the vet or me or some special person some guest that we're going to be inviting to the podcast, answer some questions for you, please feel free to go there and drop that questions in the form, and I'm gonna read all of them. If I see some questions and are repeating once and again, we might maybe make just one episode just to answer that question. If it is big enough, if it is not, we're gonna, for sure, we're gonna address that question during the QA section at the end of each book. So I'm trying to read, like, because we write something about what we want to talk about this topic during this podcast. I'm trying to read, and I see that we cover most of the sections of the first topic of the first thing, and it's why are we doing this podcast? So I don't know. I have a last question, and it is, let's talking about common pet care challenges and myths. Do you have any myth that you like, a myth that you say, okay, some people are so scared and their dogs or their cats get sick for this, but that's not the real thing? Do you have something like that that comes to your mind right now, or?
Like something that people get worried the most about, you mean, like, and it's not like a real actual problem?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question. Mm.
I don't know,
Uh,
things like dogs cannot eat chocolate. Is that true or
oh,
me?
that's true. That is true. Yeah, you should not have your dog eat chocolate. It's toxic to dogs. So that's not a myth. I would say
Okay.
one myth I think a lot of people have is about raw food diets. That's a very popular thing now. There are even, there are a lot of people that promote it. Um, there's a risk with raw food diet being that, just like with people, raw food has a risk of getting infection of bacterial infection, like E. coli, listeria, and things like that. So I know that a lot of people feel very strongly about raw food diets, and it's something that's big on social media. So I think that's
Mm,
one myth that I think it's a big one. I like to eat sushi. That's raw food, I know. And every time I eat sushi, I know that's a risk I'm taking. I don't eat sushi every day, but I still don't recommend raw food diets for dogs or cats. That's something that I would say is a big myth that's out there. Um,
okay.
yeah, I think if you want to cook food for your dog, that can be done well, and that can be done. You don't. A lot of people have very healthy, great, have healthy dogs where they cook the food for a dog, and something you could do at home. But yeah, I think that's a big one.
Okay. And I think that might be another section that we're gonna have in some of our episodes, and it's going to be, is this true or a myth? So if we have enough feedback from people with what they think, we might be able to do that too. So that's another section coming. And I guess that's most what we have to talk about why this podcast, unless that you have anything else to say before we move to the next topic. I guess
Yeah, I'm good.
I am really willing to move forward with this project. I am really eager to see every listener feedback and questions. And because that's the idea of this podcast. We're doing this because we want to build a community of pet lovers, pet owners, or people that want to have pets and have like all these feedback and have like a lot of interactions. So is I am just eager to see how this grow and how this develops with time. So all the feedback is always welcome. Everything that you want to learn about it, feel free to write it in the forums. And with no more thing to talk, what if we move to the next topic? What do you think?
Yeah, I think we can move on to the next topic.
Okay, so as I said at the beginning of this podcast, as far as today, we don't even have a name for the podcast. So when you see this in the platforms, we're gonna have it, but as far as today, we don't have it. So we make like, by the way, we have like a kind of brainstorm of different names ideas. I kind of went through it and I was looking for see which one of them can we actually have it that because it is possible that someone have those names already and I see most of them are already available. So let me read the ideas we have and let's talk about them. So the first one I see that we have here is dogs and dogs. That one is good. I wanted to ask if you like that one, Victor, because I think that we also want to talk about other animals.
Yeah,
And
I think we can move. I think, yeah, dogs and dogs are, it's too narrow, just talk about dogs.
yeah,
Yeah, we can cross that one out.
yeah. One of my favorites here is the actually gonna tell you what are my favorite ones, and they are the bedcast. That one is really catchy. I like it. There is another one that is Pets Talk. It sounds like Let's Talk, but it's Pets Talk. I like that one too. There is another one that is Pause and Klaus podcast. I like that one.
Yeah,
And the pet lounge. I like that one too. I wouldn't be able to decide for any one of them. I will say all of them.
I like those. My favorite from once you listed, my favorite one was Pets Talk.
Mm-hmm.
I also like Positive Vibes, the positive P.
Positive
Yeah, but it
vibe.
was like a PAW, Paul. So I
Uh-huh.
thought it was clever. But we can go with Pet Talks if that, or Pets Talk.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
You
I
like
like
that
that
one?
one.
I love that one. And I actually look for the domain for that one in internet, like petstalk.com. And unfortunately, that one is not available. But I'm looking for Petstalk podcast,
Mm.
and that's available. So if you like that name, people can go today, and the people that is listening today, you can go to petstalkpodcast.com and you're gonna be able to see all the forms and all the links of our podcast. Do you think that's the right name for the podcast?
I think so. I think that's the right one.
Okay, so we have a name. So we have a name. Now everyone is welcome to the petstalkpodcast.com with the without the apostrophe. So it's just PETS talks podcast.com. You will see that link also in the description. So please come to our website. And as far as that, I also wanted to say that one thing that we want to build with our podcast is not just like the weekly episode, but also we want to start sending like weekly emails to you, kind of a newsletter when we can share a little bit more about the information or the topics we're talking during the episode. We will send you the links in there. You will send you like extra information about whatever we're talking. So you're more than welcome and actually encouraged to join the newsletter. And you will see that link in the description, and also you will see it if you go to the Pets Talks, Pets Talk podcast.com. You're gonna see there the option to join the newsletter. Don't worry, we don't gonna be a spammy thing that sends you emails, 3 emails a day. The idea is just to send one email each week covering the topics that we talk during this episode. and giving you like extra information, like expanding a little bit more, some interest links, and maybe some recommendations that we have for you. But it's gonna be just one email each week. So if you wanna join, you're more than welcome. If not, you're gonna hear a lot about it, and we're gonna remember that every podcast until you subscribe to the newsletter. So yeah, so that's a really good thing. I'm so happy that we have a name now. Then another thing that we need to start talking about now that we have a name is about our brand. So I guess I was talking earlier during this video that I am in love with business, and I always have like this entrepreneur vibe. And one of my passions is talking about branding and how a brand communicates. So I made a small questionnaire with some questions that I want to ask in order for me to have a bigger idea of how to communicate through the podcast and how to build that brand for us. So the first thing I want us to do during this podcast, during this episode, is I'm gonna ask that questions and I wanna know your answers. Some of them are off questions, some of them are not. And then in the next episode, I will bring some proposals, like 3 different proposals of brand style, where we can choose what are going to be your brand identity. And I think that's cool. That's something that we can do out of the podcast, but I also think that this is cool to do it here because I'm pretty sure that some of our listeners will like to be part of this project, and there is not a better way than share like this way how we make decisions and how we decide to brand ourselves. So if you agree with that, we can like I can just go ahead and start asking questions, or I don't know if you think that we should do that.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's do it.
Okay. So first question is like describe with one adjective how you see this podcast.
Helpful.
Helpful. Okay. I will say for me it's like no. I will say it's like discovering things, so it's no. So let's write that answers here. So helpful and no. And then how will you define the philosophy of your work?
Mm.
And if some question doesn't make sense, let me know because I'm having the questions in Spanish, so I'm kind of live in translating. So if some question doesn't make sense, please let me know and I will try to explain it better.
That makes sense. I would say philosophy of the work would be to, I think, learning as we go and trying to have fun at the same time. I think that's kind of the philosophy.
Okay. Yeah, I will say something more than when I'm from my perspective. I always think that my work philosophy is like I want to give everything. The time I'm sitting here in front of you or in front of you guys recording that, I want to be 100% for everyone. And I want to share the best information we can to help your dog or your cat, or your cow. Why not? If you have a cow, I know a person that is in love with cows. I want to have like 10. But yeah, we want to give like 100% of ourselves just to share that information or the best things with you. So that's also my fight. Then another question is why you think that listeners in this case will rather to be with us instead of listening any other podcast or any other animal show.
Hmm. I think we provide unique perspective um, with both of our backgrounds. So I think there, as far as I know, not really another podcast out there that has someone who's has your background with entrepreneurship and pharmaceutical chemistry or engineering. And then with my background as a veterinary student, there's a lot of veterinary podcasts out there, but I think with our perspective is the reason why people should listen to us.
And also, guys, if you're listening this and you want to let us know why you're listening to us, it will be very helpful for us and it will be very cool to hear what do you think about this podcast. I also think that one thing that makes us unique is the fact that I am not a vet. So when I share like a lot of very technical information. I'm gonna be asking a lot of questions just to make that easy to understand for me and for everybody. So I guess that's what makes us unique. Then I want to also ask what picture do you want people to have about our podcast? Like how you want them to feel this podcast?
Yeah, I want them to feel not judged. Like everybody's learning all the time. There's no, it's a safe space, so anybody can submit questions, and that's the kind of image I have for us. And that's what I want people to think about us, not to think like, oh, I'm doing the wrong thing or something like that. That's kind of the image I have.
I love that. I love that. I also think that even if today we're a little bit, like nervous, I also want them to think that this is going to be a fun place to come. You're gonna start seeing that as far as we get more used to this, we're gonna make more jokes. We're gonna share some laughs here. And I also think, yeah, this is a place for learning. This is a place for not just anyone, but it's also a place to have fun and learn about your relationship with your dog and or your cat, with your animal. And yeah, this is that place where come, learn, and enjoy a little bit of your time when you're driving home, driving work, when you're going to the gym. Just come here and laugh a little bit with us and learn about your animal. Another question I have is if this podcast will be a superhero, and that may be a weird question, but if this podcast will be a superhero, what superhero will be and why?
Do you mean like a superhero that already exists or making up a new one? No.
You can improvise.
Okay, okay. That's a hard question.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Let me start.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if this is a superhero or not, but I don't know if you see the Doctor Dolittle.
but yeah.
It's this guy in the movie that can talk with animals. I remember when I was a kid listening that, and I say, okay, if this podcast is I don't know if it is a superhero or not, but if it has like a personality, it will be like something like that superpower of talking animals and understand what they're thinking, and that will be us. So I want to express that. I don't know if you have something else or someone else, or you can make up your own
I think it's a good one.
thing.
It's a superhero called Beast Boy in Teen Titans that he turns into animals, but
Oh
I don't know
yeah,
if you've seen that show, that cartoon.
I
That was
saw.
our comic book, but I don't remember if he talked to animals or not. But Doctor Dolittle is a good one. I think that's a good. I
Yeah,
feel
Beast Boy.
like that one's a better one.
Beast Yeah, I guess both are very cool. I remember seeing Young Titans. I don't remember the name of the show, but I know what
hmm
you're talking about.
hmm
That's cool.
Yeah, he's like green.
Cool.
He's like a
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then the last question is similar to this one. They are crazy questions that may not have a lot of sense, but at the end, when you're trying to create a brand, it tells you a lot about the personality of the brand. So that's why I think they are important because that explain how you want to communicate with others. So the last question is, if this podcast was a song, what song it will be?
Song. Oh man, I feel like something chill, like a chill lo-fi music or something. I don't know.
I was thinking in the same
I
actually.
don't know. Something not too intense, just trying to make it something like, you're just trying to have fun, not trying to make it
Right.
too serious, not take ourselves too seriously. I think that
Yeah.
I think like lo-fi music kind of describes that, but I can't think of a particular song. But yeah, that kind of
No,
genre.
okay, yeah, kind of following that. I also think something similar to that.
Okay.
But I think in this podcast, I think it more like tech house, like that videos that you put in YouTube when you're trying to study or something like that have a lot of nice places, and normally it's like that inspiring music that helps you to think, oh, what if I am in Bali right now? What if I will be in the beach? Right, that's how I see this podcast. So okay, I don't have more questions about the branding. I will bring up some ideas for the next podcast. So if you are eager to see it, please come to the second episode and you will see it. So then another question I have, and coming back to the topics of the podcast, is how often do we want publish the podcast. I also say at the beginning of the podcast that it was an idea to have it weekly. I don't know if you still agree with that.
Yeah, I think weekly is a good goal. Honestly, it's been difficult for me to know what my schedule's going to be like with school. Now I'm in clinical rotations, so every 2 to 3 weeks, usually every 2 weeks, my schedule changes. So it's hard to pinpoint a day where we can say, okay, this is the day we're going to record. But I think maybe weekly, maybe bi-weekly, or like every other week. I mean, so
Yeah.
I think we could try a weekly. Yeah.
Okay. And then you feel fine to do it like Wednesdays,
Mm,
like the publishing them on Wednesdays. That way we have the weekends. The weekends. I mean, the idea is to have like 2 or 3 episodes recorded in advance. But if for some reason we finish with all of them and we don't have no episodes for the week, if we record it during the weekend and then we publish on Wednesday, we're gonna have at least 3 days to edit and get everything ready.
I think that's a good.
So
I think it's a good
okay,
plan.
so now you know, guys, you're gonna see this episode every Wednesday for now, with the possibility that it becomes every other Wednesday. So stay tuned. Anyway, if you wanna know for sure when are we going to be publishing, the best way to do it is by joining the newsletter when we're gonna be sending emails every week and letting you know, like, hey guys, next week, for any reason, Victor is a little bit busy or whatever is going on, we can let you know through that email and let you know, okay, next episode, don't expect any episode, but the next one you're gonna see it on. But yeah, our goal as far as today is try to do it. We're gonna do our best to do a weekly podcast, but if not, it will be almost every 2 weeks. What else we have? I guess we cover much of the thing, most of the things we have. I actually have like the possibility to talk about some goals for the podcast, and I wanted to make it a little bit fun. So I don't want to complicate this with a lot of goals. I just made 5. One of the goal is and you can tell me if you think that's right. One of the goals I made is following our educational goal. I have one that is published 100 episodes. So that will be a long commitment goal because it is almost 2 years. If we're publishing one episode every week, it will be 52 episodes each week. If we're not taking vacation, then we're probably gonna be taking 1 or 2 months out every month, sorry, every year. So it will be almost 2 years from now. So it's a huge goal. I don't know how you feel with that.
I think it's a good goal. I hope that thing changes. With once I get a job out when I graduate and everything, and things could change. But I think that's a great goal. I think that it's doable. It's not something that is out of reach.
Okay. Then another one I have, it's about listeners. And that's fun because I have 2 different goals here. I read one time that one of the ways to know that you're doing it good is by measuring the feedback you have. And one way to know that you're doing really good is when you start having haters because they're gonna come. When you're making enough noise to have some people giving you wrong comments, it's because you're doing something good. So as I know that's gonna happen at some time, I have 2 goals. One is to achieve 1,000 listeners, like active listeners, that I don't know how long it's gonna take. It can take 1 week, it can take 2 years, but it will come. It will happen at some time. And then the other goal is to get the first hater. So just to make like that change. And the first time we start seeing some hate in the comments, we're gonna be happy because we have one, we're gonna achieve our goal. So I don't know what do you think about that.
I think that's a good goal too. I think that's something that's inevitable with whatever you do in life is you're gonna have haters. So I think it's a good goal. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Another one to build our community. As I already said, we're gonna have QA sections. So I want to improve that engagement with the community, and I want every one of you guys to feel answered, to feel listened, and that we're listening you and we're reading you and we know what you think. So one of the goals I made is answer at least 50 questions from the list from listeners, from the public.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, I think that's engagement with everybody and be I think that's going to be more entertaining for us and also for everybody that's listening to.
And yeah, and then the final goal I have, I mean, we're gonna be investing a lot of time doing this podcast, so it is good for us and it's worth something for that. So I also have one goal with that, and it's break even the podcast. So that means that at least the money and time we spent doing this podcast comes also back in money return, or I mean, in money in some ways, maybe sponsorships or advertising from the platforms. So that's another goal.
But yeah, I like that too because, we're spending our time on this and you've already invested money on this. So I think it's good to think about that for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And those are all the goals we have for now. I don't know if you have something else in mind, or what do you think?
I think that's a good starting point. I'm sure our goals will change as we go along. Of course, that's how life is. If we say maybe this goal is something that's more difficult, we can be more realistic sometimes. But I think these are all these goals are realistic goals and nothing too difficult to reach.
Okay. Okay. And then getting to that part, I guess I finished the last topic of today's episode. So it's time to say goodbye to everyone, at least that you have anything else to add before.
No, I think we covered everything. Goodbye, everybody.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So goodbye, everybody. Thank you for spending some time with us today. Please, if you are listening us in YouTube or Shopify, sorry, or Spotify or iVoox or iTunes or wherever you are listening to us today, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget if you have the possibility to give us the 5-star rate and share this with your friends and things that you think that it might be helpful for them, because that will help us a lot. That will help us a lot to achieve all the goals you already listened to. And don't forget also to submit your questions and join the newsletter. I don't have anything else to say to all of you for today, more than wait for the next episode when we're going to be talking about how to get your house ready for new pets. So even if you're thinking in have a pet, if you already have a pet and your house is not 100% ready, or whatever that comes, we're gonna be talking how to get ready to be welcoming your new friend to your house. Even if it is your first animal, your second animal, if you already have 4 cats or 4 dogs and you want a fifth one, so how to make sure that your house is ready for welcome them. So listen, so stay tuned for about that. And if you have any question about that topic, please let it in the questions below. And because that's the subject that we're gonna be talking about in the next episode. And nothing else to say. Thank you so much for coming, and goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.